All right, welcome back to another episode of My Third Eye. Returning guest, I think this is his third time on My Third Eye podcast. We have Rob coming back from England, and we are also joined by Ryan Dean from Dangerous World podcast. So when this does get released, you'll hear it on mine and his eventually, and we're gonna tackle a topic of detoxing your body, and no better person to have on than Rob. So we'll let Rob introduce himself, and then Ryan, if you want to introduce yourself to your listeners and mine, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Ghost. Pleasure to be back on again. High praise indeed as well. Thank you for that. Just really looking forward to chatting with you guys again. It's always a pleasure. Always some interesting, dope conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
Heck yeah. My name is Ryan. I run Dangerous World podcast, and this is my first time meeting Rob. So nice to meet you, Rob. I'm excited to hear what you're going to talk about here. Ghost just kind of invited me in on this, and I'm really excited to hear about detoxing and some of this really interesting stuff. Are we talking specifically about detoxing like the COVID bioweapon stuff, or is this just all kinds of different detoxes?
Basically, it's one and all. If you're covering decent detox protocols for, the different areas that need detoxing, that would also cover, spike proteins, COVID, etc.
Nice. Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you, Ghost, again, of course, for inviting me onto this, because I'm always stoked to get in on some of these conversations. So thank you very much, man.
Absolutely. It's the least I could do.
What's your background? Is it sort of interest in holistic therapy, that sort of thing, or
mine? You know what, man? So I am very interested in all aspects of conspiracy, and I do think that there's some serious conspiratorial aspects with Western health. When you look into the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rockefeller family just hijacking the medicine system and completely basing it, this dude runs an oil empire, and then he makes all the medication oil based. It's like a win-win, because these medications cause different diseases, and then they cause different problems, and he's just getting paid 360 different ways. So that anything that falls in line with alternative information or alternative thought processes, I'm fascinated with. And I was actually curious about your background as well, Rob, if you're, because we're sharing interesting information here. If you don't mind sharing, I'm fascinated.
No, more than happy to share. So been a very long journey for me. At the age of 17, I lost my mum to cancer. Watched her have chemotherapy, radiotherapy, everything else. She went from what seemed like a fairly healthy lady, looking at her outwardly, certainly, to a shell of her former self within a couple of weeks of starting treatment. Her hair fell out, she couldn't walk, she had to go into a wheelchair, and unfortunately she died shortly after that. Now, when it all happened, watching it all unfold so quickly, it was clear to me that chemotherapy and radiation isn't the way to treat people. You're not going to make people better when you subject them to that sort of treatment. It's just not going to happen. So ever since that moment until now, I've been obsessively researching natural cures for different things, but focusing mainly in on cancer. So to give you sort of more of a background as well, I fell into a landscaping business. I was just telling Ghost earlier, my father used to run a landscaping business, so that's been my bread and butter all the way through my life. But as a hobby for most of my life, been researching, and if I come across a protocol that I think is interesting, I'll speak to people about it for a little while, and then have enough trust in myself to actually try it on myself. Sort of researching first. I seem to have this intuition into actually just zoning in on something that's quite good for you. I wouldn't have ever heard of, for instance, diatomaceous earth. I'd never even heard of it before, and it just got mentioned to me, and I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing and stuff. Like, I'm just going to zone in on that, shortly after that, I found that diatomaceous earth, helps recovery for cancer patients. And it was, I don't know, it's just like a little light bulb goes off when I hear a word, and I just get drawn in on it. But anyway, I started with the healing side of my hobby or research with a anatomy and physiology diploma just an adult education thing, and basically what that opened up to me was the ability to do massage courses, nutrition courses, that sort of thing, and just basically taking it from there. So I've got, a very big background in massage, acupressure, shiatsu, Swedish massage, Indian head massage, Reiki as well, so sort of energy healing. But then what I also did was I researched into the mind through something called NLP. So NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming, and it's basically a way of changing people's behaviors with just the use of words. It's very, very, very powerful stuff. But yeah, so just carried on researching more for myself, implementing different regimes and protocols to see how it would make me feel different. And yeah, I've basically come up with numerous different amazing cures that you can make in your kitchen. And through sort of meditative, what would the word be? Investigation, I guess, found really simplistic and amazing ways to increase our health. By combining a few different things at the same time. For instance, before you do a workout, you only need to sort of exercise your heart for 3 to 6 minutes at high intensity every day. Do you know what I mean? It's a really easy thing to do. But for instance, if you increase the white blood cell count before you do that high intensity training, the white blood cells are the ones that go around your body. They scavenge on cancer. They'll pick up any sort of dodgy cells and they'll exit it from your system. But if you do that before a training session, your blood's going to be so much thinner. It's going to be more effective. You've got the scavengers in your blood. So you're pumping that blood around and around your body really quickly. And, just having those two things working alongside each other is symbiotic, so you're going to increase more than double by having the two of them available at the same time. Does that make sense? So yeah, just sort of really deeply looking into that sort of thing for the past 3 or 4 years. And yeah, I'm really proud to say that I've had some amazing results with people.
He actually, I don't want to cut you off, Rob, but Rob actually makes a salve that would probably help your shoulder, Ryan. And you could make it because marijuana is actually legal in your state.
If you're in a legal state, all you need is 1/8 of weed and 100 ml of coconut oil, and you will make the best medicine you'll ever come across.
Just a topical medicine?
Well, you can eat it as well as coconut oil and cannabis. THC and CBD is all very good for you internally or externally.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, when you were speaking on the white blood cell, and trying to make your white blood cells as efficient as possible before you go into a workout. Do you write down all these methods and publish them somewhere, or do you have something to where people can access these?
I've just started to. I've written a few different articles, had them published on a couple of different websites, and basically what I've done is I've got a local community that's really interested in natural health, so I've set up a couple of different Telegram groups for people to get together, share ideas and that sort of thing. But what I've just recently done is said to them, some of the things that I do are a little bit more icky. Do you know what I mean? They're not generally for public consumption before breakfast. So I've set up another group and taken the people that are a little bit stronger stomached, let's say, away from there, and I'm just going through some of these protocols. Something that I revisited just the other day actually is basically encouraging a hypothermic reaction in your body. So you induce fever. So what happens is, you drink a load of hot ginger and then you get yourself into a really hot bath, and basically the heat from within your stomach permeates outward and the heat from the bath permeates inwards, and eventually you increase your core temperature. And what that does is, for instance, it makes the blood more efficient, it dilates the cells, it allows inflammation to come away from the cells. Your blood system will work so much more efficiently when it's warm. The fat cells in your body will be easier to break up when they're warm, be easier to transit away from your system, But then what happens is that when you get out of the bath, you jump in bed with basically a plastic covering, and you induce a full-on fever. So you start to shake straight away, and yeah, you maintain that body heat by wrapping your body in plastic. And
that's interesting.
It is one of the most amazing things that you can do. It's so simple. All you need is some ginger and some hot water and a bed and a piece of plastic. And yeah, you sweat so much. Yeah, like literally.
It's fascinating. You know, the like, I know when wrestlers and fighters and stuff are trying to cut weight, they wrap themselves in plastic because it does make you sweat a lot. Is there any risk to doing something like that? Because, you know, like obviously if you have a high fever for too long, it can be harmful. Are we talking about like a 99-degree fever, 100-degree fever or something?
Well, you see, this is the thing. The fever is the natural body's way of getting rid of stuff, you know. So obviously, like most of the things we're told with the medical literature today is wrong. Do you know what I mean? If you go to a doctor with a high fever, they'll try and cool you down straight away. But what that actually does is that stops your body from detoxing the shit that it's trying to detox, you know?
So when you're sweating out all the impurities, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, literally, you can feel the sort of first 1 inch of your body all the way around your body really clean. Like after the treatment, you know, it's mind blowing. I mean, there's another one that I've just just worked out as well, which is the most amazing thing I've ever come across. Literally, you feel brand new the next morning. Like you can feel like space in your head as if you've just had a really good clean out throughout everything. I can go into it if you want me to.
Please do.
Well, I did have one more question. So is a fever, so a fever is not, it's not dangerous to have a high fever for too long? Is that just more misinformation?
Not at all. So yeah, your fever will cool down when the problem is solved.
That's crazy. So like, I just because like I've heard of people having like brain problems for having, you know, high fevers for too long.
I kind of think that's probably part of the propaganda, because the first thing they do is give you Rockefeller medicine.
Yeah.
As in Tylenol, cool you down, break the fever. And who's making money? The pharmacies. Yeah. So
that's fascinating. I would never think that would be the case. That's incredible information though. I'm definitely going to try this ginger tea and bath for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send you over the link to the website where I first found it probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Not over. But yeah, I mean, that's the next thing I'm going to write about on this icky group that I mentioned. but the other thing that I was just talking about then was basically I've been doing coffee enemas for a little while, and I'm blown away by coffee enemas. They are just the most amazing thing. You know, say for instance, you've got a migraine, you do a coffee enema, 5 minutes later, you have not got a migraine, you feel amazing again. What I realized was, well, if I go back to the start, so the reason that I was drawn to coffee enemas was that Gerson therapy. I don't know if either of you have heard of that.
Is that where you eat a lot of fruit? Is this to cure cancer as well? You eat fruit and...
That's it. Okay. Yeah, there's a few different things that you have to eat, but yeah, one of the protocols that they recommend is coffee enemas. Now, what happens when you do a coffee enema? It's not like drinking coffee and it dehydrates you and it gives you a bit of a buzz. Basically, what it does is it goes into your colon and then straight to your liver. There's a part of the coffee which escapes me at the moment, but basically what happens is it increases the liver's ability to increase the glutathione in your blood supply. And glutathione is a bit like white blood cells, you know, it's a scavenger. It goes around your body, it opens up the cells and takes away inflammation. And so what I was, where was I going? So yeah, so when the coffee enema is in you, like for instance, if you've got a bit of a cold and a blocked up nose, you can feel it get sucked back into your body. And I'm laying there and I'm thinking, you know, what is actually happening whilst that coffee is in you? And what I realized was, you know, the glutathione is increased in the bloodstream, which is going to, you know, eat up more waste. Then your lymphatic system is then going to be cleansed because your blood supply is better. And basically what I realized was, you know, the lymph system is getting just drawn, you know, so any waste in the lymph is just getting taken out of it. And then any areas which have got excess waste that the body's been trying to get rid of will just get sucked back in. Now, one of the other crazy things that I noticed when I was doing these coffee enemas, that I'd be laying there completely motionless, not moving a muscle, but one of my vertebrae would pop back into line. So again, I'm thinking, you know, what on earth is actually happening in my body when that happens? Because it happens so many times, it's not coincidence. You know, as soon as you start to put it in, you'll be laying there, you know, often in the same one as well for me. So, you know, it sort of says to me that what's happening is that area next to the spine is getting a little bit congested. When a muscle gets congested, it just becomes a little bit tight. So say for instance, your muscle is loose and it's, it's like this big. And when it gets congested, it might just pull in a little bit, so it would contract muscles and pull spinal cord away from where it should be. So as long as that is inflamed and full of toxins, it's going to hold that vertebrae out, right? So the second you start to do a coffee enema, that area starts to get cleansed, the muscle relaxes, the vertebrae just pops back in.
Wow.
How long do you have to hold it in? Yeah, I gotta ask the weird question, because
I've got a ton of questions about it too, man. That's fascinating.
Because I'm like, I've had an enema in the past, and they're hard as hell to hold in. You know what I mean?
You can't walk around. That's
No.
for sure.
It takes a bit of practice, but the first time I did it.
And is it warm or cold coffee?
You should do it warm. What you put cold water in, your muscles just contract.
Okay,
and then that
makes sense.
Difficult for the waste to come away. So you want to aim for it to be about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. But what I was going to say was, the first time that I did one, and it was a really effective one, because it does take a little bit of practice before you get the hang of it. But I woke up the next morning and I realized that I'd had a headache every single morning for probably the last 10 years. But it had just come on so gradually that I hadn't even noticed it. Now, the only thing that I changed was the coffee enema. So the coffee enema cleansed at a cellular level right through the blood-brain barrier, cleansed part of my brain, and allowed me not to have headaches in the morning. I was just blown away. For something so cheap, so easy to do at home, to have such a powerful effect on the body was just amazing to me. So, it really just zoned me in on it, thinking this is a good way of cleansing at a cellular level. If your body's fighting cancer, that can only help. Do you know what I mean? It can't help.
Wow.
Now, can it be any coffee, or does it have to be like a higher end?
Organic coffee, and ideally it should be light to medium roast.
Okay.
But any coffee's okay. I would make sure it's organic at the very least. You don't really.
What about mushroom coffee?
I wouldn't have thought so, to be honest.
Okay.
It's called. No,
because it must have to do with the coffee bean itself, something in the coffee bean that's actually triggering this, which you wouldn't get out of a mushroom-based coffee.
Yeah, it's an acid. My memory isn't what it used to be, unfortunately. Yeah, it's an acid that the higher roasts roast out of the bean. So ideally, it should be low to medium roast.
Okay.
And you just make the coffee regular, let it cool down a little bit. Or you said you could add a little cold water to cool it down to 104 or so.
Oh, this is what I was thinking. This is what brought me to this new protocol that I was just mentioning. To heat the coffee, let it cool, and then do it. Takes about an hour, and probably the first half an hour, 40 minutes of it is just cooking and cooling. So why not incorporate that time to make the coffee enema more efficient? Right. So basically I put my mind to it, how can I really increase the payback for the energy that you invest into it? So instead of just doing an hour and just doing a coffee enema, what I realized was, if you hydrate your body first with pink Himalayan salts, you're going to get the electrolytes and the minerals that your body needs. First of all, you're going to make your blood more liquid. So it will be easier to pump around the body. When your blood's more liquid, it's more efficient, so you'll be able to take more oxygen to the cells, and you'll be able to take more waste away from the cells. So that sort of started me thinking. I'm thinking, just by doing that one thing alone is going to really benefit the enema, because if you go into it with really sluggish blood supply, the enema is not going to work as well as it could do. So I started thinking about it a little bit more deeply. So what I came up with was, when the coffee's cooking, just drink as many glasses of water as you can, 4 or 5 glasses of water. I've got myself up to quite a lot of saline now. I think that salt is a really, really important thing. Again, the medical industry is telling us, you can't eat too much salt, that's going to ruin your life, blah, blah, blah. But no, I'm sorry, the pink Himalayan salt that I use supplies most of the minerals that your body needs to produce energy.
Now, I have high blood pressure. How would that Himalayan salt raise
definitely. A really good podcast that I've just shared on one of my groups by a lady called Barbara O'Neill. I'll send it over to you.
Okay.
I Am Pepper is really good. Hydration with good water is also very good.
Yeah, I tried since we last talked, I tried beetroot and young asparagus shoot pills. They were dehydrated, and I was taking them, and come to find out, the beetroot pills ended up putting me in anaphylactic shock. So I'm highly allergic to something with the dehydrated part of the beetroot. I know if I eat garlic powder, I can eat fresh garlic, but garlic powder will make my stomach feel like I have to puke, even though I don't. Like, it just makes it feel like I get a nauseous feeling. So,
Right.
and then after that happened, it started me thinking of one of our conversations with the lion's mane mushroom that I harvest and what have you. And you said about dehydrating it, put it in capsule form. I'm actually kind of scared to do that because apparently my body doesn't like dehydrated forms of stuff.
Interesting. You know, firstly, when you take in dehydrated stuff, it's going to suck moisture from your body. Do you know what I mean? So
Right.
if you're already dehydrated, I mean, that could be leading to it, you know.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I broke out in hives. My face started swelling, lips started swelling. It was crazy.
Okay. I tell you what I would say.
They actually gave me an epi shot.
I tell you what I would say is that it's probably something called Herxheimer reaction.
Okay.
Now, imagine that you've got a load of rubbish on the inside of your intestines, right? And in one shot, you take something that liberates it from your intestine walls and it starts to send it back through your system. Now, if your immune system and your excretory systems aren't working to their full potential, they're not going to be able to get rid of all of that waste in one go. Does that make sense? So any excess body can't get rid of will just enter your bloodstream and circulate your body until a time when your body can get rid of it, or what will happen, it will end up back in the cells. Does that make sense? So you will experience symptoms. This is a detox reaction, I would say, basically.
Okay.
But the way to do it, mate, is there's something called self-kinesiology. So before you try a new supplement, you can test whether it's good for your body or not.
Okay.
Have a look into that.
All right. What's it called again?
Self-kinesiology. Basically, it's a way of testing your muscles with the stimulus that you're testing.
Okay.
And so, I mean, as a really, really simple way of proving to yourself that it works, get yourself a glass of petrol, get yourself a glass of water, and then test your muscles whilst you're holding the glass of petrol, and then test your muscles whilst you're holding the glass of water, and you'll feel the difference. Your body knows whether it's a poison to your body, if that makes sense, before it actually even gets into it. It's phenomenal. It's amazing stuff, mind blowing.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say that's probably what happened to you. Now, when I start new people off on different protocols, what I'll say to them is, if you get any sort of flu reaction, you're feeling sick, you're feeling sweaty, you get migraines, headaches, any of that sort of stuff, what you have to do is you drop back on your dose. So if you did one capsule, maybe the next day do a quarter of the capsule and see if that makes a difference, you know. Because undoubtedly what's happened is that it's released a load of the waste that's on the inside of your body, and then that's traveling around your bloodstream.
Makes
I would
sense.
say,
because I recommended 3 pills a day, and I would take 3 pills 3 capsules in the morning, and maybe I should have done 1, then maybe 2, and built myself up on it. So
you know, this is one of the things that really goes against the natural health world. Because people will say, oh yeah, I took this guy's advice and I did 3 of these things and I felt absolutely rubbish for 3 weeks, you know, I couldn't get out of bed. And I mean, I did it to myself, so I know exactly what the Herxheimer feels like. It is horrendous, horrific. It's awful. Yeah, I couldn't get out of bed for about 2 weeks, just had no energy, just everything was black and dark, you know, it was horrible. So I that, you know, and I always stress to people, go slowly. Do you know what I mean? People think, oh yeah, it's just a bit of cannabis. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
A bit of
Kind of-
diatomaceous.
Kind of like what you said with the nebulizer and the hydrogen peroxide.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same sort of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
You
Go slow.
know, flipping it to people going to their doctors, you know, they go to the doctors, they give them the symptoms. The doctor says, oh yeah, you need a pack of these medicines here. They take them away and take 5 instead of 1. Do you know what I mean? And then the next day they're like, my God, oh yeah, I'm gonna have 10 today. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you can't do that. You know, yeah, that has been a big problem of mine, to be honest, is convincing people to just go slowly, you know, and taking 5 times the dose isn't going to help you. You know?
Well, everyone wants instant gratification. I mean, they want to, you know, if someone's feeling bad, they want to, that's what another thing that the Western medicine system has done for people is you can take this over the counter drug and it takes your headache away right away or whatever, you know? So people are programmed to think like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't need to change anything else. You just pop this pill a day. There you go. That'll fix you.
It's crazy.
But mess something else up at the same time, you know?
Yeah. Usually your liver, and like what you're saying about the liver is really interesting. So I hate to go back to the coffee enema stuff, but it's just fascinating. I've heard this several times. It seems like, I don't know if I've done them wrong or whatever. I haven't gotten too much help from not coffee enemas, but just regular ones. You know what I mean? I've never tried coffee, but I'm definitely going to.
Okay. Water?
What's up?
You doing just water?
Saline solution, like the saline stuff.
Okay, so saline's good. But I mean, there are a few different concoctions. Water is a good way of practicing. Do you know what I mean? So get your body used to doing it with just water, and you will, you know, get fairly deep into your system. But things like lemon and salt is really good because the lemon breaks down the Candida. What happens with the body is if it gets an area of real high toxicity, it will basically put a carrier bag around it. Do you know what I mean? And then
that makes sense.
Yeah, you know, and I believe that that's the precursor to cancer. That carrier bag is the outside of the tumor, and the body's just going to pack as much of the nasty waste that it can't get out inside that carrier bag to, you know, basically sort of put it to one side, you know, to extract it from the immune system because it can't actually get rid of it. Now, this is one of the problems with detox is that we have to break through that biofilm to get the waste out. So lemon is a really good way of doing that. So yeah, I mean, sort of practice.
Putting lemon juice in the enema that doesn't burn.
It's good. It's really good. Yeah, really good.
How much like milliliters are we talking about?
So like the entire enema would be about 1 liter.
Oh shit, a whole liter.
And you hold it for an hour, you said?
No, about 20 minutes.
You're like, man, I couldn't hold that for 2 minutes. I'll tell you that right now.
No.
Okay.
I mean, basically years ago, I realized, you know, by doing my anatomy and physiology stuff, that the waste that's going through your colon is being stripped of the moisture, you know, and if your body didn't do that, you'd have diarrhea every single day. So that moisture that comes back into your system has waste in it. Do you know what I mean? And the more nasty, the more old that waste is, the more damage, you know, the more nastiness is going to get into your body, basically. So yeah, by extracting all of that waste, you're freeing up your immune system, you know, by quite a lot, I would say. By getting all of that old, you know, putrid matter. Some people, I'll give you an idea. I read an article about high colonics. So colonic irrigation is similar to an enemas, but it gets so much deeper into the colon. And what they did is they did this guy's colonic, and they tested the waste that came out of him. And they found traces of his mother's breast milk, and he was 40 years old.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Shit.
Yeah, that stuff had been in his body, rotting, basically.
Wow. That is insane.
That stuff, you know, it's not going to be good for you.
No.
So how often do you recommend just like an average health person get a colonic then? Because I've heard of these too, but I've never done one, and I'm 30. I probably need to definitely do one.
It's, you know, it's all to do with you, how
Gotcha.
fast you go. They're quite expensive things to do as well. What I would do is just practice with the enemas personally.
Sure.
different concoctions. You can get it deep into you by doing like inverted yoga poses.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So feet in the air, shoulders on the floor, just so that your colon is upside down, basically. And you can direct it around your colon as well.
Interesting. So just doing different positions.
And different concoctions as well. So what I found is, like say for instance, the coffee really cleanses the liver, the lymph, and the blood. Right. So for instance, if you do a coffee one day, you might want to do a lemon the next day, and then a coffee the next day, or, just to mix it up a bit and attack it from different angles, because the lemon will break down the biofilm, like I was mentioning. And obviously the coffee will make your other systems more efficient and cleanse them. And what I was going on to say earlier, actually, about like combining different protocols. So like I mentioned, hydrating with the pink salt whilst the coffee is cooking. So you do that for 10 minutes, take the coffee off so it starts to cool. Go and do quick meditation or a self-hypnosis video, 20 minutes long. That will increase your white blood cell count by about 15 to 25%. You then do your high intensity training. So you've then got highly hydrated blood with pink salt, including the electrolytes, the minerals, and that whilst you're doing that training. So all of that blood is going around your body. So, it's a double whammy, man. You then, do some plyometric exercises, or do you guys know yoga? Do you know the sun salutation?
A little bit.
I haven't heard of that.
Okay, so it's called Surya Namaskara. It's the salute of the sun, basically, and it engages all of the different major muscle groups in the body. So you just do that for 5-6 minutes, something like that, so that you've worked each and every single muscle throughout your body. Again, by working that muscle, you're drawing that blood deeper into the muscle. So that highly hydrated, oxygenated blood that's got white blood cells, you're drawing that deep into your muscles. And this is before we've even got into the coffee enema side of it. So anyway, by that point, your coffee would be fairly cool. You'd put a food temperature, a food thermometer into the liquid and just add cold water until it becomes about 104. So then what you do is you take it up to, where you're actually going to do it, ideally in the bath. Run a bath as hot as you possibly can make and jump in the bath whilst you're putting that enema in. Now, it's like the fever therapy that we spoke about earlier, but what will then be happening is, so again, you've got the hydrated, oxygenated blood with the white blood cells. You've just put the coffee enema in, so you're going to be increasing the glutathione in your bloodstream. You're heating the body from outside, which is going to make, less coagulation in the blood. So it's going to be much more liquid, much easier to pump. But with all of those things in as well, you then start to do some breathing exercises and some lymphatic drainage. So for instance, you've got your head completely submerged in the hot water. Your breathing exercises are punching the oxygen up in your bloodstream. But then by doing the lymphatic drainage as well, you're moving the lymph around your body and making, mechanically moving the waste out of your body to the vents where your body can then take care of it. And what happens is, so you've got the coffee in, you're under the water, you're breathing exercises, you can feel the oxygenated blood in your body attacking specific areas. Now, what I think this is that the body, when it becomes inflamed, you can't get oxygen into the middle of that. So what's happening is the bloodstream with the high oxygen and the white blood cells and the glutathione is attacking any area where it can't get through. And you can just feel it tingling. It's really interesting. So one thing is it's a self-diagnosis tool. Where you've got areas of low oxygen. Low oxygen is the precursor to cancer.
That's awesome.
Now, how long do you keep the coffee enema in?
Ideally,
That's a good question.
Like as long as you can, or
about
15 minutes.
Yeah, if you can get to 15 minutes, that's good. An article that I was reading recently was saying that your blood circulates every 5 to 8 minutes.
Okay.
So sort of aim to cleanse completely your blood supply 3 times.
All right.
And let it all go. But I mean, if and when you do start to do these sorts of things, you do a normal enema, a water enema, it smells bad, but a coffee enema, fuck, it just smells awful. Like, oh, you know, it's rough. And as soon as you smell it, it's like, fuck, that must be some nasty shit, you know?
And that was
Like,
all in you.
yeah, absolutely. And you know,
Mm.
some people say to me, that's disgusting, Rob. And I'm like, it's disgusting that it's in you. Like,
Right.
get it out of you. Like, that's the disgusting bit.
That's wild.
But then,
Yeah, I
yes,
mean,
so you then release the enema. Enemas can be a little bit dehydrating. So afterwards, again, I'd recommend, you know, hydrating, doing some more pink salt, however much you can handle. But then taking something called bentonite clay or activated charcoal or fulvic acid, something like that. And what they do is they then suck any waste that's in your internal system. So they will then, you know, if there's anything that your liver can't handle, then they will just help exit that from the body. And then, yeah, I mean, that the morning after you do that for the first time, you feel amazing, absolutely amazing, because, you know, your lymph has been moved, all of your cells have been got at, you know, cleansed, they've had oxygen delivered to the cells, you know.
What is the preferred method of putting the coffee in the butthole?
In the
enema, dude.
You use like a turkey baster, or
You never seen an enema? They sell those little saline. They look like douchebags.
well, yeah. So so you just empty one of them out and put. Sorry.
turkey bacon.
Look, I'm asking the questions that people are out there probably thinking, because that's where my mind goes. Like, my
Turkey baster would hurt.
Yeah, well, do I put a funnel there and start pouring it in, like, you know, laying upside
You're
down?
filling your truck up with oil.
Yeah.
Buy really cheap kits. They cost, I don't know, £8, somewhere around there, just like a plastic bag with a tube coming out of it and a nozzle.
Okay.
That's a really easy way of doing it. You can spend a fortune on that sort of thing as well, you know, buying stainless steel ones and ones with, yeah, valves and yeah.
Little Play-Doh, the Play-Doh attachments that are like star shaped and all those things.
What was that? Sorry.
Oh no, like I don't know if you've seen like the Play-Doh kitchens where like they got like the star shapes. Have you heard of Play-Doh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where like you squeeze the shit through the Play-Doh pieces and it just like you have little star pieces out there. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
But no, it's fascinating to think that just something simple like that can do so much to cleanse you. And you know, you mentioned fulvic acid. That, you know, I just had a dog pass away. He had cancer a while ago. This was probably, what was this, about 4 or 5 months ago now. And he had a massive tumor on his shoulder. We chopped that off. Well, we didn't, a vet did. And then he was saying that the cancer was likely going to come back. It was, you know, going to metastasize in his stomach and so on. That's like actually what ended up killing him. He had a tumor that we didn't know about in his stomach. It ruptured his stomach and then he died. It sucked, you know, but what was interesting was that a really sweet lady sent me some fulvic acid and told me to give it to him. She was saying like she swears by this stuff. You know, this is like the secret of medicine that's been hidden from the Western world. Do you feel that strongly about it too?
Yeah. Do you know which brand it was?
I do not. It was just this black powder. It was in like a tiny little baggie. She was kind of joking around because, you know, she was sending it through, you know, the post office. She was like, hopefully they don't think it's cocaine by looking at it through the package or whatever. It looked like black cocaine essentially.
I bet that was from a company called Black Oxygen Organics.
That probably was, actually. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, so really interesting story. I found out about fulvic acid about 8 months ago. Normally, you know, I'm really reserved. You know, if I find something new and I start trialing it, I don't really talk about it for a little while because I want to make sure that it's really good for me before I go telling people to try it. But with this stuff, the benefits to just every single different system was phenomenal. So I mentioned activated charcoal and bentonite clay earlier. And what they would do is they would draw about 4 times their own weight away from you. So you take 1 teaspoon, it will take 4 teaspoons away from you. With fulvic acid, you take 1 teaspoon, it takes 60.
60? Wow.
60.
Toxins?
Yeah. But, you know, it has so many residual benefits as well. For instance, it oxygenates the blood. It supplies probiotics and prebiotics. It supplies vitamin C. It supplies boron.
What's it taste like? Or
It
does it
tastes
even?
good. Yeah, I mean,
okay. Like
well,
I could put like a teaspoon in like the quinine that I make and drink it that way, or you just water, or you prefer water?
It's because it has a sponge effect. You don't want it to be sort of drawing out the good stuff from the quinine.
Okay, gotcha.
Take quinine separate, and then take a little bit of Fulvic. Don't go in on a teaspoon. Oh my god,
so,
coming out in hives and all sorts, mate. Yeah, like to give you an idea.
I got an EpiPen on reserve, so we're good.
They're giving you on repeat prescription for the EpiPens, mate.
Yep.
To give you an idea, so I started selling it a little while ago, and I'd literally just written a talk on detox, and I went through a few different bits and pieces, MMS and hydrogen peroxide and bentonite clay, activated charcoal, blah blah blah. Anyway, at the end of it, I finished writing it, but I'd started to trial the fulvic acid 2 weeks previous to writing it. And by the end of it, I was like, do you know what? The fulvic acid does every single aspect of this detox that I've been talking about. You know, so basically there's 3 different types of detox. So intestinal detox. So if you imagine undigested waste that's on the inside of your body, that's the first one that you want to get rid of. Then you go into something called cellular detox. So cellular detox is where the waste has actually been trapped within your cells. So obviously the intestines are really easy to get to, but the cells are the more difficult part. With the fulvic acid, it does both of those. So it's a sponge as it goes through your intestine, but it's also like a leech. It allows your body to work better at a cellular level because it oxygenates the blood supply, it alkalizes the blood supply. Yeah, it's just absolutely phenomenal stuff. But anyway, going back to the Black Oxygen Organics.
That was the company, for the record. I just was scrolling through my DMs, and shout out Elena for sending me this. That's awesome. But yeah, Black Oxygen Organics.
Well, there's bad news, I'm afraid, my friend, because
well, never mind.
I've been recommending it to ages for people for a little while, and you know, so many people are coming up to me, Rob, please order me some, please order me some, please order me some. There was a lady that I introduced to it in Holland, and she'd put an order in, but she hadn't heard anything from the company. So I just sort of had to step back a bit, and I'm like, I don't want to give them a load of money if there's going to be an issue. Because I knew there was going to be an issue. That company was growing so rapidly. They were putting out scientific documents talking about how the fulvic acid eliminates the spike protein that we're talking about from COVID, right? And real proper scientific document. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my good God, what on earth are they thinking? They're going to get themselves into shitloads of trouble. It was a multi-level marketing company, and literally I got involved maybe 3 or 4 weeks later. I noticed that like 40 of my friends on Facebook were also involved. And a couple later, it was like 60 of my friends on Facebook were involved, and it was just growing so phenomenally quick. I knew that they were going to get into trouble for it. So then I heard a story, all imports into Europe had been stopped because 500,000 sachets got stopped at the border in Canada. So as soon as I heard that, then I'm like, right, this is it. They're going to come for that company now, and they're going to close them down. Of course, a few weeks later, they've had multiple lawsuits filed against them, basically citing the Herxheimer effect. So they've got hold of a few consumers who have taken a teaspoon of it instead of 1/18 of a teaspoon. And of course, they've reacted like you did, Ghost, and had real bad reactions. And of course, they're blaming the fulvic acid without realizing the actual process that's going on in their body. So shortly after that, unfortunately, Black Oxygen Organics ceased trading, and undoubtedly dirty tricks from big pharma and government were behind it.
So it was a pyramid scheme, essentially, kind of like Herbalife, right? I mean, Herbalife was one that was before this. Was there anything wrong with the quality of Black Oxygen Organics fulvic acid? It was just, they were just blowing up too quick.
phenomenal product, absolutely phenomenal product. I was on a Facebook group, literally every day people would be going on there, oh my god, I've just healed this, I've just healed that, you know, and real deep rooted problems that they were healing. Alzheimer's, dementia,
Oh, wow.
all sorts of really, really, you know, apparently difficult things to treat. But as soon as I saw the document on the spike protein, I was like, Jesus Christ, you have just roped yourself up into the noose. You are coming for a fall, boys. Like, and I saw it coming, and yeah, unfortunately, I can't get hold of any of it now.
Really? That was my next question. Do you so you don't know of anywhere else that sells this stuff?
There is other places that sells it, but not to the same quality. I've bought something called Shilajat, which is a similar thing, not quite as good as the black oxygen organics. The problem with it is it tastes disgusting. The black powder, you can put that in a glass of water, you hardly taste it at all, you know. But yeah, this other stuff is just like acidic, and yeah, it's not nice. It tastes a bit like tobacco. If you've ever sort of taken a draw on a joint or something and got a mouthful of tobacco and swallowed it, it sort of tastes a bit like that. So it is, and I guess, you know, if you can find it, it will be a smaller operation that aren't going crazy with you know, anti-spike protein protocols and stuff.
Yeah, well, this may be a stupid question. How, I mean, is there a way to tell for someone like me at home, like if I were to buy from a few different companies, buy this fulvic acid, that I could test to find out which one is quality, or is it strictly taste, or what would that be?
So I mentioned earlier the self-kinesiology.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's great if you can walk into like a shop and go around a load of different brands, because you can test yourself on each different brand whilst you're in the shop. You obviously can't do that when you're buying online. Do you know what I mean? So
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically put it on your skin first and see how your skin reacts.
You don't even have to do that. So like as a practitioner, what I would do is I would say, right, if you hold up your arm like this, and I'm going to push down on your arm, but I want you to try and push up on your arm, you know, so I'm just basically feeling the strength of their muscle. So you test their muscle before you put a stimulus in. So like I said, that stimulus could be a glass of petrol, or it could be a supplement, or it could be a loaf of bread, or it could be a can of sweet corn, you know, literally anything. You don't have to ingest it or put it on your skin. You literally just hold it in your other hand, and then you test that muscle again. And if you're stronger, it's good for you. If you're weaker, it's bad for you.
Okay.
I mean, it seems so simplistic, but man, that is powerful shit. Really powerful, because your body can tell you.
Yeah, man, I actually spoke with a woman that goes by Creative Light, and she said the exact same thing. She's into the whole holistic things. And yeah, when I heard it, you know, and admittedly, it sounds goofy. It sounds kind of weird by the way that we're programmed to think, but you're not the first person I've heard say that, man. That's fascinating.
You get kinesiology practitioners, and like a good kinesiology practitioner would have, say, 4,000 or 5,000 different things or stimulus in their office that they can test you against. So for instance, wheat, gluten, coffee, grapefruit, everything like that, and they'll have them in tiny little vials, and they just put it into your field, and then your body knows whether it's good or not, and then they retest, and then they'll say to you, oh, grapefruit's really bad for you, or, you know, whatever it might be.
Well, then I guess this is something really that has something to do with me and Ghost here. How horrible is alcohol for you? I'm scared to hear the answer.
I don't know. Apparently it keeps people
in
from getting the Rona.
Everything in moderation. I read a document just recently where they'd done scientific studies on different populations across the world, and they realized that the populations that drunk moderately lived longer than the ones that didn't.
So you and I, we're good, Ryan.
So it's like a pint of vodka a day.
Yeah.
That's moderate.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No,
that's a lot.
Say, for instance, came to me for a cancer protocol and you said, you know, I really like to have a drink, a glass of wine or whatever at the end of the day, I'd say to you, you know, the benefit to your relaxation is more important than the actual negative aspect to your body. You know what I mean? So just the fact that you sit down with a glass of wine, you go, You know, that's beautiful, man. And it's like, obviously I wouldn't say to you drink 10 glasses of wine a night, but you know, that one glass a night, it's fine, man. Just enjoy it.
You know, well, yeah, and wine has so many benefits. Have you heard of this guy, Dr. Carl Hart?
I haven't.
So he's a he's a professor at Berkeley or something. I forget exactly where he's a professor at. And the only reason I tell you that is because he is a big advocate for daily heroin and cocaine use.
Is that the African American professor, doctor that? Yeah, I remember.
He's got dreads and he looks like a clean cut dude. He just got dreads.
Yeah.
But he's been on Joe Rogan. If you listen to that, you know, you can get on and type in Dr. Carl Hart. And
Okay.
it's a interesting take that he has, but he's been on TV with who's the other guy? Dr. Drew, maybe. And like, they're kind of going back and forth where, you know, supposedly this guy, who again looks very healthy, healthier than I do. He's a big advocate for heroin and cocaine and other drugs, you know, as long as you're not sitting there railing lines or anything, I guess, like just doing like a little bump. I don't know exactly what a little amount of cocaine is. I've never even tried it, but
no.
What are your thoughts on things like that?
So like in Bolivia, the fellas that climb the mountains, what they do is they chew the coca leaf. And because they've got low oxygen environment, it's really beneficial for them. The problem that you get with cocaine and probably heroin as well, like, is the products that they would use to cut them up.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen one of those cocaine production plants in the rainforest, I mean, yeah, they use nasty shit to cut it up.
Yeah, formaldehyde shit.
Yeah. You know, just the leaf, absolutely, man. It's a natural product. I've long thought that there must be medicinal benefit to heroin and cocaine because they're illegal, the same as marijuana. You know, same as mushrooms, and you know,
yeah,
you're not allowed to.
The news about that doctor came out about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer.
I don't know when he was on Rogan. That had to have been when he blew up.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe
what I mean?
over the summer. I'm thinking, but yeah, I remember hearing about that because like he got a lot of heat. They're like, "Oh, look at this junkie, and he's teaching our kids and da 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 da," or you know, practicing medicine or whatever he does. And yeah, like you said, I go home and I relax and I shoot up a little bit with heroin at night. I was just like, what the fuck?
And it sounds crazy, you know what I mean?
Does.
It sounds absolutely insane, but it's like, hey man, you know, clearly the guy knows his shit. And then there's that MAPS organization, the multidisciplinary, I forget what the rest of it stands for, but it's a psychedelic research program. And there's all kinds of theories. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, Rob, but they're based out of the US here. You could just type in MAPS psychedelics online and you could find this, but it's weird that they are doing just that. They're trying to find out what drugs benefit people in what way medicinally. So, I mean, obviously there's clearly a benefit to mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms.
Really?
There's got to be for DMT, and then who knows where it stops, you know? So that's what's kind of interesting.
You mentioned DMT. I don't know, Rob, if you want to fill Ryan in on your one experience when your back pain got healed.
Yeah, I got loads of experiences that I can share. So yeah, one of the more recent times that I did it, I'd had a bit of a sabbatical. I'd got hold of some DMT. I feel like it finds you when you need it. Anyway, I took it around to my girlfriend's house and said to her, "Oh yeah, I'm going to try this." And yeah, did a hit on it. And basically, as soon as I went through, do you know about DMT?
Yes, sir. I've just never done it. I'm sketched out to do anything like that. Honestly, I prefer my booze. You know, I drink a little bit and then I smoke a little bit of weed every now and then. But the more and more I'm learning, man, you know, I'm interested in DMT and things like that.
Okay, so basically everybody has the same sort of thing happen. As soon as they smoke it, they go into a tunnel. And if you can imagine a kaleidoscope tunnel, like twisting, you know, really perfect geometry, vivid colors like greens and purples and reds and oranges, and just the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen. And basically the people that do it go down this tunnel, and at the end of it there's like a brick wall that you have to get through. And when you get through that brick wall, you're in another dimension, and there's no two ways about it. There's beings that approach you and that can communicate with you and show you things. It's fucking amazing, mate. It's just absolutely amazing. So anyway, yeah, this time that I was talking about, as soon as I got through, I felt the beings around me, and because I hadn't been for a little while, I felt like they were sort of greeting me and like saying, "Oh, welcome back. Oh, you got a bad back." And I felt them come into my back, and when I came around, my back was better.
Wow. So this brick wall, I mean, have you ever smoked DMT and then not been able to get through the brick wall? It's not because it's like a metaphor for like some spiritual awakening, it seems like.
So I feel like it builds up. You're allowed through when you're ready.
So sometimes you'll just go through this beautiful tunnel and then you get stuck at the brick wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly when you're first starting to do it.
Go back and listen to my DMT episode. It was with Rob. He goes into a lot of detail. It's very, very eye-opening. It's not your typical take DMT, dude. Da, 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 da. He does it in a very controlled setting. You get, if I ever have the money and the opportunity to go over to England to visit him and Alan, I definitely want to go and at least try this once.
Well, so I mean, has anyone died of this? Is there any risks as far as like, like if heart disease runs in my family, I imagine I have some heart issues. Not a problem, huh?
It's so basically naturally in your body.
Yeah, it liberates a hormone called serotonin.
Okay.
And apparently it just dumps all of the serotonin that you have in your body straight into your bloodstream. And that's what does it. So your body completely knows how to get rid of it. It's a natural hormone that your body produces. Yeah, I haven't heard of any bad experiences apart from bad trips. I haven't heard of anybody like getting damaged afterwards. But sometimes, like I always say to people, it's going to give you what you need. Do you know what I mean? So if it's a bit of a rough time, they're teaching you something, they're showing you something. You have to find what your message is. And every time somebody's had a bit of a bad time, they've come around and been like, "Oh God, that was bad. This is all dark, and I felt like it was negative." And I was like, no, there's a message in there for you somewhere. And always they will find a message and some sort of metaphor that they need to change within their life. Always.
Right. And you feel like these beings are benevolent, they're good beings, or are there possibly bad beings that people can encounter and that's what helps them to change?
I've never met any bad ones. I have heard of people meeting bad ones. But yeah.
Oh, that's scary. That's so scary. Damn.
Hey, Ryan, welcome to my third eye.
Yeah, dude. No, I mean, it seems so scary to try that shit. You know what I mean? It really does. But, maybe it's something that I need.
So you smoke it, 20 minutes later, you're back, you're fine. Like you feel more cleansed after than when you did before. Like no shit.
Okay.
It's not like acid where you take 6 hours to come round and you feel all rough and you've got a bit of a hangover afterwards. You're bright as a button after it.
Huh. Very interesting. So you're not just tired because of that serotonin dump like that. You're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
Making a pretty strong case.
I'll give you an idea. I mean, I've introduced a few people to it now. A lady came. She came the first time. She was petrified, like really scared, and I calmed her down and relaxed her and said, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Blah blah blah. She said, no, I want to do it. She had a bit of an experience, but then on the second occasion she came, literally, I put the pipe to her lips. She inhaled. She went down for what felt like about 30 seconds. And then opened her eyes and was having a bit of a panic attack. Where am I? What's my name? Who are you? And I'm just trying to get her to calm. Don't worry, it's okay. It's going to wear off soon. Just relax. Just lie down. It's okay. It's no problem. Just trying to really calm her down. Anyway, after she came round, she says to me, Rob, I've got to thank you. That was just the most amazing experience I've ever had. She said, I'm free now. I'm free again. And I'm like, okay, come and sit down. Tell me what happened. So she went on to tell me that she was riding down the road on her horse years ago, and the horse had bolted, kicked her off, ran down the road, broke its leg, and had to be put down at the side of the road. She'd always blamed herself for it, you know, and she hadn't been living her life because of it, you know. And basically what happened is this horse appeared to her and spoke to her, and this horse was with her other pets. And the other pets were saying, you know, we know that you think about us constantly and that, you know, we're just in the next room. You've got to just get on with your life and enjoy your life. And she just like threw her arms around me and was like, this is the most amazing, most positive thing that could have happened to me. You know, she says, I feel like I've been released, you know, just a new life starting today because she's cut herself off from the guilt of the past.
I'm getting a little bit of feedback from, I think it's your audio, Rob. Is there something playing in the background?
Yep.
Okay.
It's off.
Sorry.
Had the football on.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the worst thing where it's just a couple minutes of panic, that is interesting. When I was younger, I was real prone to panic attacks. That's the only reason that I haven't really had them in quite some time. But that's the only reason that I'm real skeptical, because I don't want to be like, you know, trying some new thing. But like you said, it's only 20 minutes. I'm just afraid of like the horror stories where, like, you know, which I haven't heard any, admittedly, but like you come out of this and you're like psychotic or some shit, you know what I mean? Which, you know, I don't know, dude. I'll have to try it someday if it becomes available, but it's just it's an intimidating thing.
It finds you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for it, so hopefully it'll find me. But I don't. Have you seen the Banshee chapter?
Banshee chapter? No. What's that?
It's a film. It's a fake documentary, so they make it look like it's real. It's kind of like the Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity, one of those things. But it's where this group of you know, young adults, college age people, take DMT that the government was making, and it's a fascinating movie. Ghost, you'd like this movie too. But they take this DMT, and they found out that the CIA was like extracting it out of like live human brains and shit. But like these people see demons and stuff, and then like they end up actually dying in their DMT trip and dying in real life because they died in there. You know what I mean? So
to me, that sounds like a very propagated movie put out for that specific reason, because
it's a small budget film, but it's fascinating though. You could be right. It's a great movie. I've watched it several times, but that's just like the first time that I ever heard about DMT. So that's why I was scared of it. You know what I mean?
Right. And you know, that's why they want us scared of like stuff like DMT and ayahuasca and stuff like that. You know, if it's natural, and it enlightens you, they don't want you enlightened.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That opens your mind for free thinking, and you can't be a sheep if you're a free thinker.
Yeah.
What I feel as well is their main attack on us is to like sever the connection that we have with planet Earth or intuition or whatever it is that you want to call it, the energy field. That's their main aim, because when we haven't got, you know, connection to that, we're half the beings that we should be, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely. And then when you consider then the division that goes on top of it, you know, that's their main focus, is to keep us, you know, disconnected from the source and each other.
There is this, it's a double-edged sword, just like anything else. There's this really interesting idea of like weaponized psychedelics and weaponized you know, marijuana, where, you know, I live in a state where it's legalized, but you know, you look at the people that are heavily invested in legal marijuana. We're talking like some pretty heavy hitters in the globalism type, like George Soros types. Yeah. So when these people are weaponizing these things, it makes me think a little bit like, well, shit, you know, and this is why you got to support your local business, man, instead of these big companies. But, you know, it is probably likely all these things are going to become legal. But I do feel that they're weaponized in a sense, if not for taxes and for other purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. So the UK, cannabis is illegal for us to own, use medicinally, anything. But people that are very close to the government, like basically the Prime Minister and numerous other ministers as well, have allowed one company to produce medical marijuana in the UK. Now, the UK is apparently the biggest exporter of medical marijuana on the planet.
You would not think that. That is insane.
Oh no. Like, we walk down the road with 7 grams of weed in our pocket because it helps our back, or it helps us sleep, or it helps us eat, or anything like that. We get fucking nicked. Theresa May's husband profits from a company called GW Pharma. Now, GW Pharma, they basically are at the forefront of cannabis medicine in the UK. It's funded by the likes of George Soros. Theresa May's husband, he works for GE Capital. He's one of the, the big hitters in GE Capital. So yeah, the likes of George Soros, obviously not him. Yeah. And there is another minister. I think her name
sounds like it might have some Pilgrim Society ties.
Dude, I didn't want to talk about that or Brucella, but yes, dude, there's something going on with this shit. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, they've basically found a way of monetizing it and turn it to their advantage
and monopolizing it. It sounds like.
But as well, it's not going to be as medicinal as, say, for instance, weed that I could grow. Do you know what I mean? They're just not going to allow us to have that. The other thing that they focus on doing is extracting parts of the plant. And the real power of any medicinal plant is the whole. You use the whole of it, because there's going to be other things in it which help, tweak other parts of it. So for instance, with marijuana, so there's obviously THC, CBD. There's also many, many others, CBN, CBG, THCA. And then you can get into the terpenes, carotene and limonene, and all of these different things, which together is where the power is. It works. They all work together synergistically,
Mm-hmm.
By taking one part of that away and making out that that's the medicinal plant part of it, it's a farce, and that's how their medical industry has lasted so well and done them so well, because they'll say to you that cannabis is illegal, cannabis is bad for you, blah blah blah, but selling it in vast quantities across the planet.
Now, can you use cannabis to detox?
It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it wouldn't detox you, but it would help the processes of detox.
Okay,
if that makes sense. So it wouldn't be like a thing that you'd add to your diet that then would get rid of waste, but it would help the systems which detoxify your body. Does that make sense?
Blood flow and things like this.
Blood flow, liver and kidney function. Numerous different things. Antibacterial, antivirucidal. Loads of different stuff.
Is marijuana hard on your liver? I've heard this before. Okay.
I mean, then the Herxheimer effect. So again, the cannabis could liberate waste from your body that then overloads your liver a little bit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah. I mean, I've heard this. Obviously, alcohol is very tough on your liver.
Yeah, sustained amount, large amounts. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was just because I was hearing this from the similar sources, but obviously they're just trying to lump in marijuana, and something that I'm really terrified about this whole weaponization and this monetization, the monopolization of it is, with this graphene oxide. What's to say that they're not going to put it in the weed that you're buying at dispensaries? They're already supposedly putting it in tomatoes and in salads. And I've seen from one of the sparkling water companies. Was it you that sent me that, Ghost, or was it somebody sent it to me, where you can hold up little gadgets to these sparkling waters and it pulls graphene oxide out of the sparkling water that you buy at the grocery store? So it's just scary, man.
I don't think I sent you. I could have, but I don't recall sending you that. I know we had a conversation on like different sparkling waters with I think you were talking about tonic water in one of our conversations, and my retarded ass got confused and was thinking something different. And then,
we were talking about quinine.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. What's your take on the graphene oxide, Rob? Like how can we get it out of our shit?
It is everywhere. So like right back at the beginning of the pandemic, I watched a video, that showed like Morgellons worms in masks. Have you seen those videos?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I thought, leave it out. Like, what a load of bollocks that is, So I'm like, I'm going to go and get a mask and do it myself. And I got a mask, did it. see some black worms in the back of the mask. I'm like, oh my fucking God, it's true. It must just be like one batch out of every 100 or something. So I went and got a different batch from a different place and I tested them as well. And oh, Jesus Christ, they're in every single mask, every single blue mask there is. There's graphene oxide in large amounts that when you put underneath or over the top of a kettle and moisturize it, they become active. So anyway,
with your spit. Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. I've been doing research into Morgellons and parasites for a long time. And I didn't realize that Morgellons was actually the bioweapon. I thought Morgellons was just a natural worm. But yeah, black fibers is exactly what they're putting into us. So anyway, I'd heard stories about the tests, you know, the PCR test that goes up to the back of your brain, that they had GO on it as well. So I looked into that. Sure enough, there's GO on the bloody PCR tests. And then, so I'm part of a group of people that do a lot of talking, you know, very open-minded and that. And some of the ladies started to test, for instance, sanitary wear and nappies. Of course, they're on that. They're on cotton buds. A few years ago in the UK, there was a big hurrah because places like McDonald's and Wimpy and Burger King and the likes were using plastic straws. So anyway, there was this big campaign to get these big fast food providers to stop using plastic straws. And at the time, I thought this is really weird because they're still using plastic lids. You know, they're getting rid of the plastic. They're not getting rid of the plastic lids. Why aren't they doing it? Of course, they replace these plastic straws with paper ones. And guess what? Guess what's in the fucking paper straws?
Ain't nothing good.
GO in the paper straws as well, you know. So like nappies, sanitary wear, cotton buds, PCR tests, masks, and then I see people going into like Tesco's and Sainsbury's with a magnet, putting the magnet on pieces of meat, and the magnet sticking to the bits of meat. And I'm like, oh shit, man, it is everywhere. I hadn't heard of tomatoes and salad, to be honest, but yeah, I mean,
I talked with a really brilliant woman named Celeste Solom, and she was the one that informed me about that. She talks about some wild stuff. You guys would have a really interesting conversation.
Okay, well, if you want to hook that up, man, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, man, I would actually love to talk with you. Now we'll have to have Ghost on there too. We can have a fun little Zoom party, man. Because I know we're approaching the end here. I know it's late over there where you're at, Rob. But Ghost, I don't know what else you got to say, man. This was your idea here, so get whatever you any other dude. I was gonna ask you too. It just slipped my mind actually. I had a question for you, Ghost, but we got on all these other things. I can ask you later.
It'll come back.
Tell you what, before we move on to the next topic, let me just talk about quickly what gets rid of graphene oxide.
Please do. I was going to ask that real quick.
So there's something called borax. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes.
Yeah. So you guys get something called 20-multene borax. Have you ever seen that? It's like a laundry thing. That's the stuff that you want. If you can get that in big quantities, get it and stockpile it, man, because that stuff is gonna. Yeah, that's going to make.
How is that? Do you eat it, or I mean, what do you do?
Okay, so a lot of people get this wrong. What you have to do is you take a teaspoon of borax and you put it into a liter of either distilled or filtered water. Now that is your solution. So you've then got a liter of solution. You then take a teaspoon of that solution, put it in a glass of water and drink it. That would be your starting dose. If you're particularly sensitive, maybe go half of that or maybe even a quarter. And then again, you know, gradually start to build up. But literally, when you do that, you can see clumps of like hairy material in your poo.
Wow. You know what? That's so interesting, man, because there was this fad. I have a younger sister. There was this massive fad going on around here where these kids were making their own slime, like, you know, like, and you use borax for that, or borax, I'm sorry. And, it's just kind of like it feeds into that whole karmatic idea where like they're going to teach you what you need to do to help yourself, or they're going to tell you what they're going to do before they do it, like whether it be predictive programming or whatever. This borax stuff, and I'd never heard of this stuff, and then it's everywhere, and then you know then COVID comes, and if you're saying that this is like something that can prevent graphene oxide from really you know taking a hold of you, that's kind of interesting for sure.
Yeah, you can. Here we're out in Pennsylvania. I can walk into my local mom and pop hardware store, and borax is right on the shelves. I even seen it in Ollie's.
Is it
That's
that
just
20,
detergent.
Yeah.
the 20 mule team, the brand
Yep.
though?
The 20 meal team.
Send me some of that.
Yeah.
Because it's illegal for us to get it here now.
That's crazy.
No fucking way.
Well, not illegal. What they do is they make it difficult. That's what they do. So if you're a contractor that would use borax, for instance, in insecticide or that sort of thing, or laundry, that sort of industry, you're allowed to get it, but you have to prove that you're in those industries to get it.
Wow. Make a fake business license, dude. Fake business.
I was really lucky. That happened in the UK, and I got in just behind that. And there was a couple of places that I could purchase from America. I think it cost me about 20 quid just for the box, and then sending it over as well was extra. I think it was about 30 quid all in.
I'm thinking the last time I seen it, it was, I don't know. I don't even know, maybe $11 for a big box. Like it's not super expensive. Like,
No.
because I remember walking by and I'm like, oh, that's that 20 multine borax that Rob was telling me about. And I should have bought a box, but then I was like, fuck, I forget how he told me to make it, which my dumbass, because I'm half retarded, could have just reached out through Telegram. Hey, I got this. How do I make it? Da 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 da. But yeah.
And one more time, just so people don't have to rewind, and this is for me too. Can you repeat the formula?
Sure. So it's just a teaspoon into a liter of decent water. So ideally distilled water.
Distilled.
Ideally, if not very good filtered water. So I don't know if you guys get something called a Berkey filter out there. So
yes,
that
sir.
takes fluorine and your fluoride and all of that stuff. That's okay to use in like medical stuff. So yeah, you get a teaspoon of that, you put it into a liter of that good water, and then you take a teaspoon of that and put it into a glass of water and drink that.
Fascinating. And so is it helpful to wash your clothes in that too, instead of using, healthier, like, we don't use Tide or anything, but we use like the organic detergents. Should we be using borax for that too, or?
For that, to be honest, I'm thinking that it's much more beneficial to me to be taking it internally, and considering it's so difficult to get in the UK, I've got this box and I'm like, I don't want to waste it on doing washing and that.
Right.
Got it. Sure. Doing baths with it is amazing, but to do a bath with it, you need a whole cup full. So I'm like, considering it's so difficult to get hold of, I can't warrant doing a whole cup full of the stuff. When the first solution that I knocked up, that single liter, I'm still using that. That was probably 3 years ago.
And how often would you want to drink that too? You said you shit out hairy clumps.
Yeah.
How often would you want to take that little teaspoon solution of borax in your water? Every day, or?
Every day for a couple of weeks, and then have a bit of a break. Build up as well. Like what I say to people is that if you drink one glass of water, chug it back in the first thing in the morning, not much of that water is actually going to permeate through the cells. There's something called hydrophobia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you imagine like desert, when the desert is really dry, the earth is all cracked. If there's a flash storm and there's loads of rain comes down really quickly, what happens is that moisture just disappears. 95% of it ends up in the river and it's gone to the sea before you know it. It doesn't actually permeate through the soil. And it's the same with our body, so when we're dehydrated, those dehydrated cells will slightly repel moisture. So what I say to people is much better to have that drip feed effect. So if in those arid desert areas, it was just more of a trickle rain instead of a flash flood. So the same amount of water dumped over 8 hours instead of 8 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Would have a much better effect on the soil. So it's the same with our body, So if you're sipping a glass of water throughout the day, it's the best way of taking in the water, because it will just permeate. If you neck a glass of water, most of it's going to end up through your kidneys and then out of your body quickly.
It makes sense, because if you're like hung over and you chug a bunch of water, it doesn't take your headache away. It doesn't make you feel any better for like hours. It's a great
kind
point.
of, or going back to the opposite effect, when you start having a few drinks, you don't need to pee for a little while, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, it finally permeated my system, and now I got to pee. You know,
And the booze doesn't set in as quick, and then like you feel it, cumulatively, like just getting you shit faced. So yeah,
yeah,
interesting. That's great, man, dude. I learned a ton, honestly.
I knew you would. And that's why I reached out to you, Ryan. I was like, man, I gotta have you on this so you can at least release it for your audience as well, because you've been doing some good research on, the brucellosis and having I'm drawing a blank on her name.
Celeste Solum.
Yeah, Celeste Solum. And this just adds right into there. Rob has so much to offer when it comes to a lot of this stuff.
It was incredible, truly incredible. And yeah, we will have to definitely do an episode with Celeste Solum. Had you heard of mycoplasma and brucellosis before, Rob?
No, I haven't. Let me say this really quickly before we move on about hangovers. The best way to cure a hangover is before you go to bed, drink a shitload of water then, right? But if you put a little bit of pink salt in it, that will replace the electrolytes and the minerals that your body is lacking.
Boom.
So get hydrated before you go to sleep. If you go to sleep, you're just going to dehydrate, wake up in the morning with a fucking banging headache,
Fascinating.
Makes sense. I used to do that in my younger years. I'd drink a couple glasses of water before I went to bed after a night of partying and what have you.
But the pink salt, that helps even more with the pink salt.
Good to know.
Cool.
Awesome.
Anything else you want to add before, or do you want to wrap it up? Or
I wouldn't mind actually, guys, if that's more than happy. Pause whenever you guys want. It's a pleasure chatting to you. So.
All right. Well, Rob, I know you don't have places where people can get to you. However, make sure, if you can, get us the links to the stuff that you're publishing, so people can read up on all this. And Ryan and I will put it in each of our show notes. And this to me, this is, like I said, you're my three-peat guest. You and Alan, we talked about nature's medicine, then you and I talked about, some DMT, and then now this. It just, I could have you back time and time again, because there's tons of topics that you and I, and even Ryan, can jump on and talk about. And I think Celeste Solum and you and us two would be a really, really interesting show.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
Yeah. Let me know when.
Yeah.
One is, if I don't want just anybody coming onto these groups, but I'm happy to add you two, and all of the information just goes in there. They're pretty quiet at the moment. Certainly the icky one. That one's only just been set up a few days ago.
Yeah, Ryan, you got to get more
that icky stuff. I'm interested in that.
The sticky icky. Yeah, Ryan, you got to get more active on Telegram. I'm telling you. I know it kind of has a Twitter based feel, but man, there's so much to offer over there.
I was thinking about it actually. I don't even mess with it at all, but I'll get on there for sure.
You're already added to my group, so.
Yeah, I'm on people's groups, but I haven't even logged into the app in months, so I need to just do it and just mess with it. I'll make my own channel, but
you should. I would never have met Rob if I wasn't on Telegram. I've met so many awesome people from all around the world that bring information well before I even had the balls enough to reach out to you to help me start my little podcast that's finally starting to grow. Lengthy conversations on there. You can do a voice chat, video chat. You can actually, if you're hosting it, you can record it. You could probably do a show interview through Telegram if you really wanted to. But
cool.
Wow, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I wanted to say congrats as well. Your Lines of Destiny post is doing very well.
Dude.
Please.
It is. Yeah. It is. I got a message today from I forget the person's username or whatever. That they were like, I have so many questions. like, I need 3 more hours of this. And I just replied, no worries. He's discovering more on what he's already discovered. So there will be another part to it, because I turned him on to the box saga, and he started pointing the lines up near that way. So, and he kind of hinted on it. He came on, and I should have you on one of the nights. It's a little bit later for you over there, but on Friday nights, 7:30 my time, which would be a little late for you. But I do a talk at the tavern, and Ryan's always there. He's basically the ride or die, my homie on that.
Oh yeah.
Always true and true. So but yeah, Alan was on last week, and he was kind of talking about, hinting at what he's kind of found up near, like the Sweden, Finland area and what have you, with the box saga, with his lines of destiny. So yeah.
Grow and grow.
Oh, it does. Alan blows your fucking mind every time you talk to him. I don't know what and he's so great to talk to.
We were up until
just as yourself
2:00 in the morning last night, chatting, just bouncing ideas off of each other. Yeah, and every time we speak, it's just phenomenal. It's amazing, man. Absolutely amazing, man. So humble and just so intelligent. Like, amazing.
Well, man, when I met him, I was telling him, like, not only does he have incredible information, the Irish have a gift of speaking. Like, I was just saying, like, you can just listen. At least I can. I know a lot of people feel the same, but you can just listen to what he's saying for hours. And then, for us, for Americans, like, English people have that same thing where it's like, there's something just really great about the accents where it's like, you can understand what they're saying, but it sounds just a little bit different to where it's exciting. And, like, it's just, there's something about it, man. So I really did appreciate talking to him, and of course to you, man. I learned a ton here, and I feel like this is really beneficial information to a lot of people, man. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's really nice to meet guys like you that can help me get this information out there,
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
And through your channels, it's people that want to hear the information. I often feel like I'm speaking to brick walls, because people are like, oh yeah, but the doctor says this. The doctor told me to do this and this and this, and I couldn't possibly just drink more water, or have a teaspoon of cayenne pepper in the morning. Couldn't possibly do that.
Right. Yeah. And now you have to actually literally research and look into the bottled water that you buy in the stores, because most of it is so alkaline that which actually ends up harming you.
Well, and freaking Nestle uses child labor, supposedly. That just came out a while ago, and they have like Arrowhead and all these other massive companies. So yeah, dude, like, not only like what's in the water, but how the water is getting sourced. It's a big mess.
I'm fortunate enough. I have a very local spring water company that sources the spring water, and the only thing it goes through is an ozone light, like basically like an
UV light.
UV light, yeah. And that's all it does. And they sell it to every major, well, not every major, but the one major grocery store around here, and you can buy it through them and what have you. But yeah, it like I said, I'm fortunate. I don't even drink my tap water. I buy their spring water, because I know I actually worked for them when I first got out of the service, and hey, they're legit, and
nice.
There's nothing, there's nothing in it other than pure water.
Nice. And hopefully minerals as well.
Yes.
Fuck yeah. Well, yeah, Rob, I know that you had to get going, man. We'd hate to keep you too late here. So
an absolute pleasure. Yeah, pleasure.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to have you on, Rob. And like I said, if you want to do something with Ryan separately, I'll put you guys into contact, and you can like I said, Ryan, pick his brain.
Organize that round table of the 4 of us.
Yeah,
I'd love to do that. Yeah, I'll reach out to Celeste, and then we'll see what we can do, man. So again, great to meet you, Rob. Ghost, thanks for inviting me on, man.
Absolutely. Do you want to plug anything before you go, or just wrap it up from there and put something in an outro? Or
Oh no, yeah, we can wrap up, man. Hopefully, I'm gonna post this on my page too, and they know where to find me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Rob, thank you once again. And like always, blowing my mind with great information.